there comes a time in life when the roles between parents and children begin to shift. You spent decades raising them, guiding them, teaching them, sacrificing for them. But one day, something changes. Maybe they start ignoring your advice. Maybe they dismiss your opinions. Maybe they talk down to you. Or worse, make you feel like a burden. And that hurts. If your children have begun treating you with less respect than you deserve, it's completely normal to feel frustrated or even angry. You might want to remind them of everything you've done, of the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the times you put their needs above your own. But here's the truth. Getting angry rarely helps. In fact, it often makes things worse. Instead, there's a better way, a smarter, calmer, more powerful path. Today, I want to share 6 things you can do when your children don't show you the respect you've earned. These aren't about yelling or lecturing. They're simple mindset shifts, changes in how you respond, that can gently reshape how your children see you. Some of them might surprise you, but if you stay with me until the end, you'll discover how to reclaim your voice, your dignity, and your rightful place as a valued, respected presence in your family. Let's begin. Action 1. Stop chasing their approval. One of the most common mistakes aging parents make, often without realizing it, is trying too hard to please their adult children. Maybe you've caught yourself doing this. You go out of your way to accommodate them. You say yes when your heart says no. You keep your thoughts to yourself, hoping that if you're just kind and flexible enough, they'll appreciate you more. But here's the painful reality. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect doesn't come from self-sacrifice. It comes from self-respect. If you're always giving in, always adjusting, always keeping the peace at your own expense, what you're really showing them is that your feelings come second. And once that belief sets in, it becomes easy for them to take you for granted. I remember a woman named Margaret. In her younger years, she was bold, independent, and full of fire. But as she got older, she started letting her children take over everything. She rearranged her schedule to fit theirs. She held back her opinions. She stayed quiet when they spoke to her dismissively. "I just want to keep the family together," she told me once. But the result? Her children began to overlook her. They made decisions without her. They saw her as someone who would always adapt, always agree, always remain silent. She thought she was preserving peace, but in reality, she was losing her voice. If your children are showing you disrespect, the first step isn't to demand it. It's to stop acting like you need it. Set boundaries, speak your truth, say no when that's what you mean. Because the moment you begin to respect yourself again, others, including your children, will start seeing you differently. And in time, their respect will return. Action 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. When your children dismiss your advice, talk over you, or act like your thoughts don't matter, your instinct might be to push back, to argue, to explain, to remind them of all the things you've done and the respect you deserve. But here's something that might save you years of heartache. Arguing rarely works. Think about it. When was the last time someone won your respect by yelling or demanding it? Respect isn't earned through raised voices. It's earned through presence, through the way you carry yourself, through calm, steady confidence. If you meet their disrespect with anger, all you're doing is proving that they can rattle you, that they hold the power. Let me tell you about Frank. He was a retired school teacher, respected in his profession, a leader in the classroom. But at home, things were different. His adult children dismissed his input, laughed off his concerns, and treated him like he was out of touch. At first, Frank tried to argue. He raised his voice. He demanded to be heard, but it only made things worse. Then one day, he changed his approach. He stopped trying to earn respect through words. Instead, he began living with self-respect. He listened more, spoke calmly, stopped trying to prove himself, and he held his ground, not with anger, but with quiet strength. And slowly his children noticed. They saw a man who didn't beg for approval, who didn't chase validation, who simply was a man of dignity and wisdom. If your children don't respect you, don't fight them. Show them. Show them what true respect looks like. By the way you treat yourself, keep your dignity, speak your mind, and most of all, don't stoop to their level. Because when you hold your ground with grace, they will feel it. And over time, they'll begin to follow your lead. If you're still watching this and finding value in what we're discussing, comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to Elders Health Essentials and turn on the bell notification so you never miss an episode designed to uplift, empower, and support you through your golden years. Action 3. Withdraw your emotional dependence. One of the hardest but most important lessons to learn as we age is this: you cannot depend on your children for emotional fulfillment. Of course, you love them deeply. You want to feel close to them. You want them to love and respect you in return. But the moment they sense that you need their attention or validation to feel good about yourself, the balance in your relationship starts to shift, and not in a healthy way. Here's the reality. Even your own children tend to respect those who are emotionally independent. When you rely on them for affection, praise, or reassurance, it can feel like pressure. And instead of feeling grateful, they may start to feel burdened. They might pull away. They might grow impatient. They might treat your calls or visits as obligations rather than something they look forward to. And the more you chase their love, the less freely they offer it. I once knew a lovely woman named Helen. She was a warm, generous mother who had given her heart to her children. But as they got older and busier with their own lives, Helen found herself sitting by the phone, waiting, just hoping they'd call. And when they didn't, she called them instead. Sometimes too often. She reminded them how much she missed them. She told them how lonely it was without their visits. But the result? Instead of drawing them closer, she unintentionally pushed them away. Her calls became something they felt guilty about, something they avoided. But then, something shifted. Helen decided to stop waiting by the phone. She stopped reaching out first. Instead, she focused on herself. She picked up new hobbies. She joined a walking group. She started going out with friends and rediscovered joy in her own life. And that's when something surprising happened. Her children started calling more. Why? Because she no longer needed them to feel whole. And in that emotional freedom, they began to see her differently. They saw someone vibrant, fulfilled, and strong. The less she depended on them, the more they valued her. Here's the lesson. When you stand strong on your own 2 feet, emotionally and mentally, your children will respect you, not out of guilt or duty, but out of genuine admiration. Action 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. Here's a truth that can be tough to face. One of the biggest reasons adult children lose respect for their parents is because the parents allow it. When you tolerate being interrupted, ignored, or dismissed, when you allow your time, feelings, and values to be stepped on, you're not just being easygoing. You're teaching them that it's okay to treat you that way. Let's be clear. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting off your children. It doesn't mean creating drama or conflict. It means calmly, clearly, and confidently saying, "This is what I will accept, and this is what I won't." And when those lines are crossed, you follow through. Let me tell you about Robert. He was a retired businessman, once the confident leader of a thriving company. But at home, with his adult children, He felt like a doormat. They interrupted him mid-sentence. They brushed off his advice. They even criticized the way he lived his life in retirement. At first, Robert tolerated it. He told himself it wasn't worth the argument. But slowly that silence eroded his dignity. One day, he'd had enough. When his son interrupted him, Robert calmly said, "I'll continue speaking when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he replied, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect to be treated with respect." And when they continued to cross the line, he made it clear, "If you can't speak to me with basic courtesy, I won't be spending time with you." At first, they resisted. They were surprised, even annoyed. But over time, they adjusted. They began to take their father seriously, because he took himself seriously. Respect starts with self-respect. If you don't enforce your boundaries, no one else will. If this message resonates with you, drop a number 4 in the comments so I know you're still with me. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss future videos packed with tips to empower and support you. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the fastest ways to lose someone's respect is to keep giving when they've stopped appreciating. And as parents, we often do this without even realizing it. We give our time. We give our energy. We give financial help, emotional support, and more, even when it's met with entitlement instead of gratitude. But here's the truth. When you keep giving to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't build love or connection. You build expectation. They begin to see your generosity not as a gift, but as something they're owed. And when you finally stop, they don't feel grateful. They feel inconvenienced. I knew a father named George. He was always there for his children, financially, emotionally, in every way. He rearranged his life to meet their needs, but over time, the thank yous disappeared. The phone calls became demands, and when George finally needed their help, they were too busy. That's when he made a change. He stopped offering help before it was asked. He stopped saying yes to everything, and most importantly, he started saying no. At first, his children were confused, even upset. But eventually they began to see things differently. They started valuing his time. They appreciated his support because they realized it was no longer a guarantee. It was a gift. Here's what to remember. If your generosity isn't respected, it's okay to pull back. And when you do, you teach your children that kindness comes with conditions, like mutual respect. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. One of the most powerful ways to regain your children's respect is to show them something they may have forgotten. Your life doesn't revolve around them. And we'll dive into that next. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. As parents, it's natural to devote our lives to our children. For years, they were the center of our world. The reason we worked hard, sacrificed, and kept going. But as we get older, that dynamic begins to shift. And if you've spent your entire life prioritizing your children without nurturing your own identity or passions, they may start seeing you in a painful light, as someone with nothing else going on. Here's the hard truth. People, even your own children, tend to respect those who have their own purpose, their own interests, their own sense of fulfillment. But when your children sense that you rely on them for entertainment, approval, or meaning, they might begin to feel trapped. They may feel suffocated. Or worse, start seeing you as someone whose life is waiting room for their attention. Let me share a story about a woman named Eleanor. She was a widow in her late 70s. After her husband passed, her world felt empty. So she poured everything into her adult children. She called constantly, gave advice they didn't ask for, tried to stay involved in every detail of their lives. She was hoping they would fill the space her husband once held, but instead of bringing them closer, it pushed them away. They visited less, their calls became shorter, and Eleanor was left feeling more alone than ever. Until one day, she made a powerful decision. She joined a local book club. She started traveling with friends. She volunteered at a community center. She stopped centering her life around her children and started living it for herself. And that's when everything changed. Her children began calling more often, not out of guilt, but out of genuine interest. They admired her independence. They respected her. Why? Because she had become a person with a rich, meaningful life of her own. So if you feel like your children don't respect you, ask yourself this: do they see you as someone who's living or just waiting? Because when you show them that your happiness comes from within, they'll start seeing you in a completely different light. If you're still watching and this resonates with you, comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us continue bringing you the content you deserve. Final thoughts: you don't demand respect, you inspire it. Respect from your adult children isn't something you can force or demand. It's something you earn through how you carry yourself, how you set your boundaries, and most importantly, how you live your life. If your children have started treating you with less care, less kindness, or less regard, don't waste your energy getting angry or bitter. Shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval, because the less you need it, the more they'll offer it. Lead by example, because your dignity will always speak louder than your words. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because self-sufficiency earns admiration. Set clear boundaries, because people will only treat you as well as you require. Stop giving when it's taken for granted, because appreciation is what gives generosity its value. And finally, build a life outside of them, because people respect those who stand on their own and find joy in their own path. When you live this way, when you carry yourself with quiet confidence and inner peace, your children will start to see you differently. Not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being who they are. And that respect will return to you, not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us, what's one insight you're taking away from this video? And how do you plan to use it in your life? Your thoughts matter. Reading your comments gives us motivation and reminds us why we do what we do. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support allows us to keep creating honest, helpful content for older adults who want to live with more confidence, purpose, and dignity. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, and remember, you are worthy of respect, just as you are.